The galactic exchange pulsed with energy, its spiraling halls alive with the hum of 1,000 transactions. Holographic tickers scrolled endless streams of data, commodities, futures, interstellar debt obligations, all flickering in the neon glow of the station's curved walls. Alien financiers moved in clusters, their bioluminescent suits shifting colors to match the urgency of their deals. Tentacles, claws, and delicate manipulator limbs danced across floating screens, adjusting bets worth more than some planets. Marcus Kane leaned against a support pillar, his exosuit servos whining softly. The suit was old, patched in places where the plating had worn thin, but it was his. Just like the USN Venture, his retrofitted freighter docked in Bayfay, ignored, dismissed. Just another piece of human junk in a galaxy that had moved on. A murmur rippled through the crowd as the central display shifted. The emblem of the Zenthari Consortium flared to life, its sigil, a coiled helix of gold and silver dominating the feed. The alien financiers stilled, their many eyes locking onto the projection. "Attention, honored patrons of the exchange," droned a synthesized voice. "The Zenthari Consortium has filed a market position." A hush fell. Then laughter. Marcus didn't need to see the details to know what was coming. Had heard the whispers for weeks. The consortium's lead broker, Vrixis, slithered forward, his serpentine Kisari body weaving through the crowd with practiced ease. His scales shimmered with amusement, shifting from deep violet to mocking gold. "A short position," Vrixis announced, his voice dripping with relish, "against the Human Economic Index. 1 trillion standard credits, leveraged at 50-1. The crowd erupted. Claws clacked, mandibles chittered. A hulking Vorak banker let out a guttural chuckle, his forearms crossing over his armored chest. More laughter. Marcus took a slow sip from his flask. The synth, whiskey burning just enough to keep him steady. Had heard it all before, primitive, fragile, outdated. The galaxy's favorite pastime, underestimating humanity. Vrixis flicked a claw toward Marcus, his golden eyes glinting. "Fire. One of them is here. Tell me, Softkin, does your species even understand what a short position means?" Phi Marcus exhaled, rolling his shoulders. The exosuit's hydraulics hissed. "Means your betting will fail." Marcus didn't flinch. Had expected this. Earth Command had warned him the play was coming. A Cerealian floated closer, its orb-like eyes pulsing with telepathic amusement. "Poor humans, did you really think you could compete with real economies?" Marcus smirked. "Funny, last I checked, you all still buy our quantum stabilizers." The laughter died, just for a second. Vrixis recovered first, his scales darkening. "A temporary necessity. Our engineers will replicate your primitive tech soon enough." "Sure," Marcus said, pushing off the pillar. "Good luck with that." He turned, ignoring the jeers, and strode toward the exit. Behind him, the tickers flashed anew, Human Index, down Fey. The aliens were already placing their bets. Giddy with the thought of easy profit, Marcus tapped his wrist, sending a single, coded burst toward the venture. Operation Black Swan was live, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Marcus Kane nursed his synth, whiskey in the dim neon glow of the margin call, a dingy bar tucked between the exchange's lower decks. The air smelled of ozone and alien pheromones, the hum of the station's engines vibrating through the floor. Around him, financiers from a dozen species laughed over crystal goblets, their bioluminescent skins pulsing with amusement. The holoscreens above the bar flashed the same headline in looping galactic standard. "Human economic collapse imminent. Zenthari short position confirmed." A Vorak banker slithered onto the stool beside him, his scales shimmering with condescension. "Still here, soft skin. The alien's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Your species' credit rating just got downgraded to laughable. Marcus didn't look up. He swirled the amber liquid in his glass, watching the way the artificial gravity made it cling to the sides. Funny, he said. We invented credit ratings. The Vorak's frills flared. Your primitive systems. Maybe the consortium trades in real value, quantified stability metrics, neural market forecasts, paper promises. Marcus cut in, finally meeting the alien's slit, pupilled gaze. Sound familiar? Laughter erupted from a nearby table where a group of Kasari traders were toasting. One of them, a serpentine broker named Vrixis, raised a glass. To the humans. May their currency rest in peace. Marcus' fingers tightened around his glass. Had heard it all before. Too slow, too fragile, too dependent on archaic systems. The galaxy had written Earth off the moment the first human freighter docked at a Federation port, but they'd missed the real trade happening in the shadows. His wristcom buzzed. A single pulse-coded Operation Black Swan was live. Marcus downed the rest of his drink and stood, tossing a crumpled Earth credit chit onto the bar. The Vorak hissed. What's this, your last monetary unit? Nah, Marcus said, adjusting his jacket. Down payment. He strode out into the corridor, the station's curved walls alive with flickering tickers. The numbers were already shifting, though no one else seemed to notice. Human bonds, officially worthless, were ticking upward by fractions of a decimal. Too small for alien algorithms to flag, too human to ignore. As a Pyrian analyst brushed past him, her four eyes glued to a data screen. Stabilizer shortages in Quadrant 7, she muttered into her comm. No, the human shipments haven't arrived. Marcus smirked. He ducked into a maintenance alcove and palmed open a secure channel. The hollow display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Lisa Hayes, her uniform crisp, the USN Olympus visible through the viewport behind her. Phase 1's done, Marcus said. They took the bait. Hayes nodded. And the stabilizers. Locked down every last unit. A shadow crossed her face. They'll panic when they realize. Marcus cracked his knuckles. That's the point. The channel died, leaving him in the alcove's red glow outside. The station hummed with its usual rhythm, unaware that the gears of human vengeance were already turning. He made his way to the docking bays, where his ship, the USN Venture, sat between two gleaming alien yachts. The freighter was a relic, patched hull, mismatched thrusters, a cockpit held together by spit and hope. The consortium's analysts had laughed when Head listed it as collateral. What's next, trading rocks? Jansen, his engineer, was waiting at the ramp. The grizzled old spacer didn't look up from his wrench. They bought it, hook, line and sinker, Marcus said. Jansen spat on the deck. Dumb bastards. Inside, the Venture's cargo hold was a maze of crates, all stamped with Earth quantum solutions. Marcus ran a hand over one. Inside weren't the stabilizers the galaxy expected, but their replacement parts, the tiny irreplaceable components only humans manufactured. The comm crackled. Kane. It was Reyes, their hacker, her voice tinny through the speakers. Just sliced the exchange's feed. They're still doubling down on the short. Vrixis just pledged another 10 billion credits. Marcus leaned against the crate. Tell me they used leverage. Oh, they leveraged. All right. Reyes' grin was audible, borrowed against their own stabilizer stockpiles. Jansen whistled. They're going to be pissed when they find out those stockpiles are empty. Marcus checked his chrono. 6 hours until the next stabilizer shipment was due. 6 hours until the galaxy realized Earth had let the shipments stop. He thumbed the ship's intercom. Reyes, send the signal. Time to crash the party. Somewhere in the void, human warships powered up their drives, and the market's clock ticked toward 0. The galactic markets had never seen a day like this. Marcus Kane watched from the bar's flickering holoscreen as the first alerts blared across the exchange. The ticker symbols for human colonial trade agreements, once dismissed as worthless scraps of data, flashed crimson. Earth default imminent scrolled in bold galactic standard, followed by a cascade of subsidiary warnings. The Vorak banker from earlier, his scales rippling with amusement, clacked his talons against the bar. Looks like your species paper promises just folded, soft skin. Marcus didn't react. He took a slow sip of synth, whiskey, the burn familiar, comforting. The drink was human, made one of the few things in this station that was around him. Alien financiers murmured, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with predatory delight. Then the second wave hit. A Zephyrian trader suddenly stiffened, his four eyes dilating as his personal feed updated. What in the void? His voice cracked. The Proxima colonies just severed all trade lanes. Laughter died. Datapads clattered to the floor. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Across the bar, a Kasari broker hissed as her own alerts flooded in. Tau Satis gone dark. No stabilizer shipments. Panic spread like a virus. On the main holoscreen, the galactic market graphs, once a steady tapestry of alien prosperity, plummeted in jagged spikes. The ticker for Quantum Stabilizer Corp, a cornerstone of interstellar infrastructure, flatlined. A Ceralian financier, his floating orbs pulsing frantic orange, grabbed Marcus by the shoulder. You, human, what's happening? Marcus shrugged. Supply and demand. Then the screaming started. A Vespidian trader shrieked as his portfolio dissolved before his eyes. Our reactors, the stabilizers, they're failing. Marcus knew why. Every FTL drive in the galaxy, every plasma refinery, every orbital habitat, all relied on human-manufactured quantum stabilizers. The aliens had never noticed. They'd outsourced the tech, buried it in subcontractor agreements, forgotten who actually built the things that kept their civilization running. Now they remembered. The bar's comm system crackled. A harried voice, Zephyrian, judging by the guttural tones, barked over the din. Emergency broadcast. All Federation vessels, immediate stabilization failure in Sector for Gamma. Repeat. Core containment failing. Marcus stood, tossing credits onto the bar. Human credits. The Vorak banker stared at him, his scales now dull with dread. You knew this would happen. Marcus adjusted his jacket. We didn't just know. He leaned in. We designed it. Outside the station's alarms wailed. The holographic tickers, once so confident in humanity's demise, now flashed catastrophe after catastrophe. Quantum stabilizer stockpiles depleted, Federation reactors critical, emergency session called, Earth trade delegation requested. Marcus tapped his wristcom, a single pulse transmitted, coded untraceable. Somewhere in the void, the USN Ventures engines hummed to life. The game was just beginning. The holographic tickers flickered erratically, their usual smooth streams of data now, stuttering like a dying pulse. Across the spiraling nebula, shaped exchange floor, alien financiers clutched at their data, slates with trembling appendages. The air smelled of ozone and panic. Marcus Kane leaned against a railing, watching the chaos unfold with a smirk. His comm link buzzed, a direct feed from Earth Financial Command. The message was simple. Phase 2 active, squeeze them. A Zenthari broker nearby, a towering insectoid with iridescent wing, casings shrieked into its comm. What do you mean our buy orders aren't processing? Its voice cracked. The system is rejecting our credits. Marcus took a slow sip of synth, whiskey savoring the burn around him. The once smug aliens were unraveling. The junk bonds. they'd laughed at yesterday were now the most valuable assets in the galaxy, human debt notes. Once trading at fractions of a credit, now flashed fey gains on every screen. Vrixis, the serpentine Kasari who'd mocked him earlier, slithered over, his scales dull with stress. "Kane," he hissed. "What is this? The market algorithms. They're locking us out." Marcus shrugged. "Funny how that works. You try to bankrupt a species, and suddenly your own money doesn't mean squat." A Vorak banker nearby slammed a clawed fist into a console. "Our reactors are failing. Half the core worlds are reporting stabilizer shortages." Marcus feigned surprise. "Oh right, those." He tapped his wrist. The USN Venture, his battered freighter, pinged back, docked and ready. "See, stabilizers, nasty little things. 1 part quantum alloy, 2 parts proprietary human engineering. And guess who just cornered the market?" Vrixis's frills flared. You hoarded them. Hoarded." Marcus chuckled. "We manufactured them. Every stabilizer in the galaxy human-made. You just never noticed because we let you slap your fancy alien logos on them." The exchange floor erupted. Brokers screamed into comms begging for shipments. Consortium overlords watched in horror as their fortunes evaporated in real time. A Zeperian CEO collapsed, its gelatinous body quivering. The margin calls, "They're liquidating us." Marcus stood, stretching. Time to collect. He strode toward the docking bays, the crowd parting before him behind. The holographic displays updated again. Human credit rating. AAA fee unlimited. The Venture's cargo bay doors hissed open, revealing stacks upon stacks of gleaming quantum stabilizers. Alien representatives mobbed the ramp, waving blank credit chits. Marcus held up a hand. New rules. He pulled up a contract on his slate. Earth's terms. You want stabilizers, you pay in human currency, and since you shorted our economy into oblivion, he grinned, that'll be 10 million credits per unit up front. A Ceralian financier, its floating orbs wide with horror, gasped. That is extortion. Nah, Marcus said. Extortion's illegal. This is just capitalism. He leaned in. You should have read the fine print. The first alien to cave was a desperate Thorian magnet. It transferred its entire fleet's worth of assets into human-held accounts. Others followed, their pride crumbling faster than their portfolios. By the time the Federation Council's emergency transmission came through, begging for negotiations, Marcus had already sold half his cargo. He muted the feed, turning to his first mate. Tell Hayes the trap's sprung. Time for the fleet to make an appearance. Outside the station's viewports, the stars shimmered, then twisted, then ripped apart as 100 USN warships dropped out of warp, their railguns humming. The aliens had bet against humanity. Now they'd pay. The holographic tickers in the galactic exchange flashed crimson, their once pristine numbers now spiraling into oblivion. Alien financiers scrambled across the polished floors, their bioluminescent suits flickering with panic. The air smelled of ozone and desperation. Vrixis, the Kasari broker, slammed a scaled fist against a data terminal. This can't be happening. Our entire reserve is gone. His forked tongue lashed the air as he watched the numbers plummet. Who authorized this margin call? A nearby Zeperian clutched at its cranial tendrils, its voice shrill. The humans. They triggered it. Earth's financial command, just. The words died in its throat as the massive central display flickered. The image of Admiral Lisa Hayes materialized, her uniform crisp, her gaze unyielding. Behind her, the silhouettes of USN warships filled the screen, their railguns humming with barely restrained power. The room fell silent. Members of the Galactic Exchange, Hayes began, her voice calm but edged with steel. You placed your bets, now it is time to settle accounts. Vrixis hissed, his tail lashing. You can't do this. The Federation will. The Federation. Hayes cut him off with a humorless smile. Their reactors are failing. Their fleets are grounded. And you, she leaned forward. You're bankrupt. A Vorak banker staggered forward, its exoskeleton trembling. We'll pay. Just release the stabilizers. Hayes didn't blink. At our price. Marcus Kane stood at the edge of the chaos, arms crossed, watching the aliens unravel. His freighter, the USN Venture, was docked just outside, its cargo hold packed with the last functional quantum stabilizers in the galaxy. He took a slow sip of synth, whiskey savoring the moment. A Cerellian financier, its floating orbs wide with panic, drifted toward him. You knew, it whispered. This whole time you knew. Marcus smirked. We didn't just know, we planned it. The Cerellian's orbs dimmed. But why? Because you assumed. Marcus set his glass down. You assumed our economy was weak. You assumed our tech was replaceable. You assumed we'd just take it. He leaned in. Big mistake. Across the room, the Zenthari Consortium's leaders huddled, their once proud postures broken. One of them, a towering Zolthan, turned pleading eyes toward Hayes' hologram. Name your terms. Hayes didn't hesitate. Earth now controls 80% of all interstellar trade lanes. Our currency becomes the galactic standard. And every credit you owe, she smiled, you'll pay it with interest. The Zolthan's frills flattened in defeat. You're condemning us to ruin. No, Hayes said. We're teaching you a lesson, one your kind should have learned a long time ago. Marcus chuckled as the aliens scrambled to draft surrender terms. He tapped his comlink. Venture, prep for departure. We've got a galaxy to run. Outside, the tickers flashed one final, damning line. Human debt collection active. The grand hall of the Galactic Exchange had never been so quiet. The usual hum of 1,000 alien voices, the flicker of holographic projections, the clatter of appendages against data screens. All of it had died. The only sound was the soft tap of Marcus Kane's boots against the polished floor as he walked toward the central dais. Every eye in the room followed him. The serpentine Kasari, the towering Zephyrians, the floating orbs of the Cerellians, all of them frozen in disbelief. The ticker boards lining the walls still flashed red, the numbers a brutal testament to their collective ruin. Marcus reached into his coat and pulled out a single data chip. He held it up between two fingers, letting the light glint off its surface. You wanted to know why, he said, his voice cutting through the silence. Here's your answer. He tossed the chip onto the table. It landed with a soft click, and the room's central hollow projector flared to life. A three-dimensional schematic of the galaxy unfolded, lines of trade routes pulsing between systems. Then, one by one, the connections flickered and died, human colonies severing their links, supply chains collapsing, reactors going dark. Vrixis, the Kasari broker, who had sneered at him days before, slithered forward, his scales dull with shock. This was planned. Marcus smirked. Every bit of it. The projection shifted, revealing another layer, hidden shipments, coded transmissions, a web of human-controlled choke points. The aliens had thought they were betting against a weak, fractured species. They hadn't realized Earth's collapse was a carefully orchestrated trap. A Vorak banker, his carapace trembling, slammed a clawed hand onto the table. You lied to the entire galaxy. No, Marcus said, his voice cold. We just let you lie to yourselves. The projection zoomed in on a single line of text, glowing in the stark, unflinching script of Earth Financial Command, Operation Black Swan, Active Thoraxis. A Cerellian financier whose floating orbs now pulsed with panic, let out a psychic shriek that rattled the room. You knew we depended on your stabilizers. You let us think. That you had us cornered, Marcus finished. Yeah, and you bought it. The room erupted. Alien voices overlapped in a cacophony of outrage, desperation, and for the first time, fear. As Hyperion CEO, his tendrils twitching, lunged toward the projection, as if he could claw the truth away. This is economic warfare. Marcus didn't flinch. No, this is leverage. The doors at the far end of the hall hissed open. A hush fell again as Admiral Lisa Hayes stepped inside, flanked by 2 USN Marines in full combat rigging. Her holographic presence had been intimidating, but in person, the steel in her gaze was undeniable. The aliens recoiled. Hayes didn't bother with pleasantries. She walked straight to the table and tapped the data chip. The projection shifted once more, this time displaying a single document, Earth's terms. The room read in stunned silence: debt restructuring, interest rates, trade concessions. Vrix's forked tongue flickered. You can't possibly expect us to agree to this. Hayes smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. We don't expect anything, we're informing you. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The Vorak banker hissed. And if we refuse? Hayes tilted her head slightly, as if considering. Then, without looking away, she said, Marcus. Marcus tapped his wristcom. A second later, the entire station shuddered as something massive locked onto its docking array. The external feeds flickered to life on the walls, showing the sleek, predatory hulls of USN warships now encircling the exchange. Hayes let that sink in, then softly, you really don't want to refuse. The projection updated one final time. A single line, bolded, Earth-controlled stabilizers, Fay production halt until terms are met. The silence this time was absolute. Marcus leaned forward, bracing his hands on the table. You gambled against humanity, now you've lost. He straightened, turning toward the exit. Pay up. As he walked away, the first of the alien financiers reached for the agreement. Their appendages trembled. The galaxy had just learned a hard lesson. Never bet against humans. The grand hall of the Galactic Exchange had never been so quiet. The once bustling chamber, where alien financiers had smugly bet against humanity just weeks before, now stood in stunned silence. The holographic tickers lining the walls told the story in flashing crimson letters: debt to humanity, Fay, quintillion credits. Marcus Kane leaned against the central podium, his boots scuffing the polished alien metal. The same aliens who had laughed at him now avoided his gaze. Vrixis, the Kasari broker who had led the charge against Earth, slithered forward, his bioluminescent scales dull with defeat. You planned this, Vrixis hissed, his forked tongue flicking between needle-like teeth from the beginning. Marcus took a slow sip from his synth. Whiskey, now the most expensive drink in the galaxy, thanks to Earth's new monopoly on quantum stabilizers. Planned. No, we just knew you'd get greedy. A hologram flickered to life above them. Admiral Lisa Hayes, her uniform crisp, the USN battle fleet gleaming behind her. The Federation Council has ratified the new trade accords, she announced. Effective immediately, all interstellar transactions will be conducted in human credits. Any attempts to circumvent this will result in sanctions. The word hung in the air like a guillotine. Across the room, a Hyperion CEO collapsed into his adaptive chair, his forearms trembling. Our reactors, our ships, everything runs on human tech. You can't do a damn thing without us. Marcus finished for him. He tapped a command into his wrist terminal. Outside the station's observation windows, the USN Venture, once dismissed as a junk freighter, now gleamed with alien upgrades, its hull reinforced with stolen Kasari nano. Plating, one by one, the alien financiers activated their own terminals, transferring the first round of payments. The tickers updated in real-time human credit value, faith, on the lower levels of the station, human traders. once ignored now, sat at the center of every deal. A young woman in a patched-up flight suit grinned as a Vorak banker begged for a loan. "Sorry," she said, popping a stick of ancient earth gum. "Interest rates just went up." Back in the hall, Brixis finally broke. "You'll regret this," he spat. "When the Federation rallies," Marcus laughed. "Rallies with what? Your warships can't jump without our stabilizers. Your factories can't run without our alloys. Face it, you built your empire on human ingenuity. You just didn't realize it until we turned off the tap." The Admiral's hologram crossed her arms. "The terms are non-negotiable. Any species that defaults will be cut off from all human technology permanently." A Ceralian diplomat, his floating orbs wide with panic, whispered, "That would mean extinction." Marcus shrugged. Schuld read the fine print. As the aliens scrambled to comply, the USN Venture's engines hummed to life. Marcus tossed his empty glass to a servitor droid and turned toward the docking bay. His work here was done. Behind him, the tickers flashed one final update. Human stocks, Fey gain. The galaxy would never underestimate Earth again.